Welcome to Category Visionaries, the show dedicated to exploring exciting visions for the future from the founders who are on the front lines building it. In each episode, we'll speak with a visionary founder who's building a new category or reimagining an existing one. We'll learn about the problem they solve, how their technology works, and unpack their vision for the future. I'm your host, Brett Stapper, CEO of Frontlines Media. Now let's dive right into today's episode.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Category Visionaries. Today we're speaking with Florian Forster, CEO and co-founder of ZITADEL, a cybersecurity company that's raised $11.5 million in funding. Florian, how badly did I just butcher your name?
Actually, this take, it was really great. I mean, you nailed it, actually. And you said Forster instead of Foster. So that's actually a good start. We're off for a good start there.
All right, that's what we want. We like to start things off strong. So talk to us about your journey here. So you just moved to the United States from Switzerland. What was that like, making that shift, making that decision to leave?
I mean, the decision was made because there is a huge opportunity in the US for what we're building. And we anyway had venture funding from, let's say, the Bay Area since we started to embark on ZITADEL's mission. And at one point, the question came up like, hey, why don't I just move here to start building a go-to-market team and to grow the company? So we made that happen during mid-2024. We raised Series A and at the same time flipped the company from Switzerland to the States. And that's where I started working on my visa. And so far, the 2 months I have lived here, technically, because I've been here in and out. But so far have been really nice. It's easier to engage with people. I soak up a little bit of that Bay Area vibe. So I cannot complain about these things, honestly. It has been great so far.
And I believe you mentioned earlier, you have a family too, right? You moved your whole family?
Yeah, that's correct. I moved my wife and 2 kids, like younger kids. The older one turns 5 soon. And even the pet moved along from Switzerland. So even the cat endured the 12-hour flight here.
Amazing. Well, glad you're all here. I love when people are moving to the Bay Area. Let's talk about ZITADEL. So at a high level, what does the company do?
We're doing all things related to logins. That's the unfunny piece that everybody needs who builds software today. So we technically are infrastructure software. I know that does not sound a lot, but whenever you see like username, password, or you see a login with multi-factor authentication, or even a button like login with Google, that's the thing we provide in the background. We have a slight tendency on solving some problems around multi-tenant scenarios, meaning B2B cases, or if you have like multi-tenant B2C scenarios, like multiple product streams. So we're really good at like consolidating identity needs in one platform. And I think what's beautiful about ZITADEL is it's an infrastructure software that has a lot of flexibility, has a lot of focus towards developers. So we have APIs for everything and not just UIs. So I think that's a plus there. And also you can self-host it. And that's, I think, a contradictory stand to the current market. So it's not SaaS only closed source. With us, we have a SaaS deployment. You can also self-host. And at the core, it's actually open source with an HEPL license. Yeah, so that's the rings down there.
Pricing. How do you price something like this?
Oh, that's where I have the spicy take typically. Because right now the whole industry is around seat-based pricing and active user-based pricing. And we're guilty of that as well. So don't mind me going against my own argument here. But the thing that I hate always with these per user pricings is we are the system that makes the users. So if we hinder our customers on creating users in the first place, it kind of defeats the whole idea of us becoming a great player. So we need to move away from that, a user costs XYZ. And since we are mostly in the, let's say, B2B space, we are going to change our pricing quite drastically soon. I'm not going to jinx all the details now because that will jinx things. I'm quite sure of that. But what we think is a good move there is to give our customers as many users as they like, because they can more easily factor that into their own business model. And then we can tell them, okay, if you have some compliance needs, like when a user changes the password, you need to send out a notification to the user. Well, we can just give a price for that. Like if you want to have an email sent out to the users from a certain company, if the password changed, just give us $5 for that. Not per user, per customer. And so we better align with our values, with what our customers can harness from their customers, essentially, especially in B2B2B, also to some extent in B2B2C, right? I know these are tongue breaker names, but the value there is it aligns with our value proposition, really brings forward, hey, that's where our customer has a value gain and not just growth. It's more like, hey, it needs more of these capabilities as I grow and my customers get more mature. So they need more capabilities. Okay, let's give these capabilities out and make a price on them instead of the user, because that takes out the friction of thinking about the pricing. Oh no, adding users will cost me something, because in itself, it totally defeats the concept of growth in my mind. But that might be just me who thinks that way.
Are there any companies that you think are just doing pricing right? Obviously, not asking for companies, in your category that are competitors, but in general, technology companies that you look at their pricing and say, okay, I can learn something from what they're doing.
I think a company that did really good on that end is Twilio, I think, because Twilio had that like, hey, just swipe the card and then you start growing with the usage. And it was not about like how many users send SMS or something like that. It's just, okay, you have some traffic going, we just charge you for that traffic. And so there's a super low friction on getting started in the first place. And you can grow your usage. And at one point, you want to have an enterprise agreement and these things, but that gives you some discount for some commitments and stuff. But that's super lean to me. So I would say Twilio is a good example there. I also, to some extent, enjoy Vercel's pricing more and more in the recent days. I mean, they have some weird things there, but most of the things I like because they're just metered consumption-based price on things that I actually need, and I have to some extent some control over them. Not all of them, but some, because having control over what I'm getting billed at is kind of the challenge, I would say. Because if there is a lot of traffic, but I don't make money off it, that can be cumbersome then. But that's, somebody needs to take the risk there. Like, what if I grow and don't get any money back out of that? Well, that's then an economics problem that you need to solve in your pricing. But Twilio is really the one example that comes to mind first there.
This show is brought to you by Frontlines Media, a podcast production studio that helps B2B founders launch, manage, and grow their own podcast. Now, if you're a founder, you may be thinking, I don't have time to host a podcast. I've got a company to build. Well, that's exactly what we built our service to do. You show up and host, and we handle literally everything else. To set up a call to discuss launching your own podcast, visit frontlines.io/podcast. Now, back to today's episode.
So there's some hot takes on the pricing side. Let's keep going with the hot takes. Talk to us about open source hot takes.
Oh, I mean, I absolutely love open source because I sometimes call it cash or code. If you pay me something to do something, or you contribute in a meaningful way to Citadel. And that's one of the core reasons we just changed the license recently from Apache to AGPL. Because what we have seen as a pattern is really like, people should take Citadel and use it. We actively encourage people to do that because it's a great product. And at one point, they just might want to have some fancy enterprise features. They might want to have an SLA and some guarantees. And that's where pricing, like a commercial grade pricing, comes in. And I think it's totally feasible today to run what we call a dual licensing approach, meaning there is the open source version. You can use it. A lot of things are in there, like close to everything, not everything, but close to everything. And we give that with an AGPL license to you because we want people who use it for free. If they make changes, we want to have these changes essentially. Or you go for a commercial product and you give us money, then we do the code for you. But it ends in both ways to increase the value of the open source project at last. And that's kind of, some companies have done that clearly, like Minayo is a good example that comes to mind. But also I think AGPL is really a great license to achieve that. Because I can be honest, like as a security product, and we fall into that ballpark, we still need to spend quite a lot of time on building a secure software. So we also do pen tests, and we have processes internally for reviews, and we not just accept any pull request. So if you want to establish a machinery that is actually economically sustainable, you need to make money somehow. And the question is just, okay, what amount of things can I give for free the community, and what things can I only do under a commercial license? And in essence, that's why I see it as cash or code. You even contribute one of the two, and both are totally fine. And then it goes even so far that some of our bigger clients, not customers, like they don't pay money, but they use it. And they, for example, they just hire pen testers to do a pen test of Citadel. I'm totally fine with that as well, because it provides value back to us as a company and the community. And that's super important on open source. Because I think people sometimes get blindsided by Kubernetes, for example, a big open source project with an Apache 2 license, a great project, by the way, but that has so much sponsoring funding in it that it feels like a commercial product, but actually it is not. But there's so much money behind it that you don't see the open source as cash or code equivalent anymore, I would say. Just there, just use it. And I find that defeats the purpose to some extent. But that might be just me again.
What about on the marketing side? How would you summarize your marketing strategy?
I think what's important for us there is like, since we're a startup, we do a lot of experiments left and right to figure out what sticks, right? What I think is an important lesson that we learned through the path of all of it is like, we really need to work on appealing to developers in a concise and smart way. And what I mean by that is you should not write too much content that has not a meaningful angle for developers, because sometimes companies need to do things like, let's start a campaign for the buyers, right? Mm-hmm. And let's target buyers. But what we learned in a lot of these, let's say, learning spirals we went through is targeting the developer ultimately in many cases leads to us being in the debate when somebody procures a system like ours. Mm-hmm. And we only need to have content for that small interaction with the customer and the buyer side. Essentially, we don't need to tell everybody, hey, Citadel is great, and that's all the things we do for the non-technical audience. We just need to give them some confidence, like, hey, the thing is there, your developer scrutinized it already, and here is the fine line for the buyer, essentially. Like, hey, there is some things that you need. We cover them for you, and that's how it goes. That's the price. Let's go. But that's a condensed message. And so I think marketing-wise, what's super important for companies like ours in general is have a solid developer marketing and a small piece marketing for the buyers to just give them the right information. But that's not as much as one would think of. So it's what I see come out on the marketing end here.
What's the split roughly? Are you talking like 99% on developers, 1% for the buyers? Like 40? What are we talking here? What's the math?
I would say it's about 80-20. It's the perfect ratio for us, but it's also a learning curve on our end, right? That thing moves up and down slightly as you do experiments. But we did a lot of experiments with like an inverse 80-20, like more buyer marketing and close to no developer marketing. Mm-hmm. Hasn't worked out that great. So honest take there is like more developer marketing, more engagement with the people that use Citadel, and only the right amount of information for the buyer is really crucial. And it takes some time to nail out what all the questions are that you need to answer upfront and what information the buyer that scrutinizes you is going to look for. And so I think it's a fine line to walk. But my gut feeling is it shouldn't 10 to 30% of your marketing time should be on that end, and quite a lot on community and developers in general.
This show is brought to you by the Global Talent Co., a marketing leader's best friend in these times of budget cuts and efficient growth. We help marketing leaders find, hire, vet, and manage amazing marketing talent for 50 to 70% less than their US and European counterparts. To book a free consultation, visit globaltalent.co.
What else on the experiment side? What have you tried to experiment with that just failed miserably?
Ooh, that's a good question. For a certain period in time, serverless was the big thing, right? Everybody was talking about. So we built Citadel in a way that it actually runs on serverless, but whatever serverless is, we can make the definition, but that's not the thing we're talking about. We try to phrase the messaging like, hey, we're the identity system that you even can run on serverless. That totally didn't stick, because let's say the mid-market and enterprise guys that typically buy Citadel, they are totally capable of running Kubernetes and just deploy Citadel into Kubernetes on their own. Mm-hmm. And they're fine with that because it's a well-known and well-defined deployment blueprint. The whole serverless thing was so undefined that it actually, nobody really took something out of it besides, Citadel can run stateless. We could have gone with the message like, it's stateless to run in that case. Would be more appealing, I guess, to many folks than that blanket, serverless thingy. So that totally flopped. I'm while reflecting back on it. Yeah.
What about building out the marketing team and just the general go-to-market team? What have you learned so far?
Oh, I think it's important to point out there is some cultural differences between Europe and the US. So we learned quite a lot of things on that end, like on both sides, right? Team composition, also on the buyers are different. And one of the things that always awestrucks me, because, I'm a Swiss guy, so typically more defensive in how I talk and speak. I just get domesticated in America now. But the thing that struck me is always in US marketing, things get overinflated quite severely, but the buyer knows that. So automatically deduct some of it, like 30% of the message out in his brain, and you're down to 70% of the truth, and everybody just deals with that. If a European tells you something, it's typically like 99% there, but they're just horse shit at marketing it correctly. And the US buyer does not automatically add 30% of the capability. So I think Europeans tend to undermarket and undersell quite many times. And that's the sad truth. I think the good truth about that is you typically get quite solid things if you're in that. But having that culture clash is kind of the fun thing to figure out and to do the alignment, because you need to run quite a lot of experiments and talk with a lot of people to figure out, okay, that's how to talk with each other and that needs to come out. And that's the common ground of having success here. So yeah, I would say cultural differences is a big challenge and a big thing to watch out for, especially if you have global companies and global customers.
I feel like you're embracing the American identity. You have your Coca-Cola in your hand, you have a Levi's shirt, you have like some chicken tenders there or something, then you're like, I'm true American.
No, but I got something for you here. I got the obligatory Patagonia hat. I know it's like...
You're ready. You're an American officially.
Oh, yes. It's like, yeah, I make use of what's here. So I will put it that way.
So is the plan then to have a split team? So you'll have some folks back home and then the rest of the team here? Like, how are you thinking about that long term?
Actually, we have like 3 things that we want to take. Let's say 3 pillars. Let's put it that way. I think for us, it's a smart way of doing the go-to-market. So marketing and sales, DevRel, all these things in the States, because I think they work reasonably well here. I think keeping core engineering in Europe is a good approach because you get decently priced engineers with a good education background for way less than in the States.
What percentage is like the difference, just roughly speaking?
I mean, you get like a decent engineer for $100 to $150K in Switzerland. And these are well-educated and good trained engineers. And the same applies to most of the Central European countries. You can go for less if you go more east, but still you get really good engineers for a decent price. I mean, Bay Area price now is like 250, 500. Nobody really knows, right? So an engineer is not necessarily a lot better. So I think price for value and engineering is good in Europe. So that's my take there.
Mm-hmm.
What we just started, though, is also customer success and sales engineers in Argentina.
Mm-hmm.
That also works great because they have a good time zone fit to the States. Like that's a great experiment we started like a few months back. We just hired actually the customer success team from Auth0 because they were laid off. And that was really great move. So in my brain, it really comes to these 3 areas, like Europe for core engineering and product, US for go-to-market, and Argentina or South America for all things related to customer success and sales engineering. So that's how the picture comes together for me right now.
When you reflect on this entire journey so far, what's been your most important go-to-market decision that you've made to date? And take us behind the scenes. How'd you make the decision?
That's a good question. I think one of the biggest decisions is still coming with the new pricing. Yeah, I mean, it's an ongoing thing, but one of the biggest decisions I would say will have some impact besides changing the open source license and sticking to open source, because we also could have done the rug pull thingy and we're now closed source or we with some years open source-ish license. So I would say the inflection point besides the open source part is listening to your customers over and over and over again to build a great product and to realign your pricing and not to be too hesitant about breaking things along the path. So that whole pricing discussion, that takes time. It takes a lot of learnings, a lot of tests with customers. So I think having a solid and easy to understand pricing is a huge enabler and a huge disabler if you do it wrongly. So I think that the upcoming pricing change will be one of the influential pieces for us. And it has quite a lot of attention now, yeah. But I cannot tell you the success there because we only have run it with our existing customers so far and some new customers, but we haven't rolled it out and called and talked in public about it. Besides, we don't want to price users anymore.
Well, it's a smart strategy because now we have to bring you back on for a part 2 so we can like find out.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Happy to tell you all the things that went good and bad in like 6 months because then you know whether it really worked or not.
Now, final question for you before we wrap. Let's zoom out 3 to 5 years into the future. What's the big picture vision look like?
What I want to build with Citadel essentially is like, I sometimes call it the GitLab for identity. I hate the term. I haven't found a better one, but I think somebody really needs to build a developer-first identity platform that can run multiple jobs. Like it starts with the login, it goes into authorization, like who can do what, but also I think a big missing piece in the industries right now, which is a lot of attention in our end, is like, how do we deal with all the AI shenanigans that are out now? And I don't mean like a lot of people talk supporting in AI and enabling AI cases, but in my brain, it's also like, okay, but who makes sure that an agentic AI in your browser is not just doing bank transactions for you? So there is also some residual risks that we as an identity company see and want to tackle. So mitigating AI or flagging AI usage will be the cornerstone for us. And yeah, there is a lot of things in there like knowing what people do and behavioral analytics and figuring out, hey, is a user really doing that or is it an AI doing the job for him? And because there is some need on that end from our customers. Because if I'm a bank, for example, I don't want to use an AI agent against my e-banking and suddenly tell me, hey, why is my money gone? Because there is a risk management problem in there. And I think there will be a big time for us in that market over the coming years.
Amazing. I love it. All right, man, we're done. I think we're on time, a little bit ahead of schedule. This has been a blast. Really enjoyed chatting with you.
Perfect.
This episode of Category Visionaries is brought to you by Frontlines Media, Silicon Valley's leading podcast production studio. If you're a B2B founder looking for help launching and growing your own podcast, visit frontlines.io/podcast. And for the latest episode, search for Category Visionaries on your podcast platform of choice. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode.